ሰላም እንዴት ናችሁ? ፍሬሽማኖች ነን። በዛሬው ቪዲዮአችን እንደተለመደው ሁሉ በድጋሚ የቻፕተር ፓርት 4 ቀለል ባለ አቀራረብና ይዘት ይዘን መተናል። አሁንም አብሮነት ቆይታችሁን በትህትና ፎሬን ፖሊሲ ዳይሜንሽን ኤንድ ኦሪየንቴሽን ፎሬን ፖሊሲ ቢሄቪየር ከዚህ በፊት በነበረው ፓርት 3 እንዳየነው ሀገራት የተለያዩ ፎሬን ፖሊሲ ቢሄቪየር እንዳላቸው አይተናል። ይሄ ፎሬን ፖሊሲ ቢሄቪየር ደግሞ ወደ ስራ ወይንም ተግባራዊ የሚሆኑባቸው የተለያዩ ዳይሜንሽኖች አሉ። ሀገራት ፎሬን ፖሊሲያቸውን ፎሬን ፖሊሲ ቢሄቪየራቸው በሚፈቅደው ነው የሚመጥነው መልኩ የተለያዩ ዳይሜንሽኖችን ኦሪየንቴሽኖችን አዶፕት ሲያደርጉ ይታያል። በዚህ መሰረት there are three major ways to classify foreign policy dimension and orientations of a state. This includes alignment, scope and mode of operation. So based on those ways we can classify states foreign policy or dimension and orientation. The first one is based on alignment. So alignment, which means whether leaders choose to align with others or remaining ኒውትራል አንድ ሀገር ከሌሎች ጋር አላይን ለመሆን ለመተባበር ወይንም ኒውትራል ለመሆን የምትመርጠው የምትሄድበት ወይ that is an alignment ይባላል። ሀገራት አንዳንድ ጊዜ በትብብር ይሰራሉ፣ አንዳንድ ጊዜ ደግሞ ራሳቸውን ኒውትራል አድርገው ፎሬን ፖሊሲያቸውን ራን ሲያደርጉ ወይንም ኢምፕሊመንት ሲያደርጉ አቺቭ ሲያደርጉ ይታያሉ። a country's alignment behavior from time to it can be vary from time to time during its history in response to changing circumstances. በየጊዜው ያሉትን ለውጦችና ሁኔታዎችን መሰረት በማድረግ የካንትሪ አላይመንት ቢሄቪየር ከጊዜ ወደ ጊዜ የተለያየ ነው። በዚህም ምክንያት አላይመንትን ሶስት ቦታ ከፍለን እናያለን ማለት ነው። አላይመንት includes alliance, neutrality and non-alignment. The first one is alliance. What is an alliance? Alliances are a formal agreement to provide mutual military assistance. States may ally each other to achieve their mutual interests. That mutual interest or that mutual benefits or mutual risks. የጋራ የሆነ ችግራቸውን የጋራ ጥቅማቸውን ቤኔፊታቸውን ስፔሲፊካሊ ሚሊታሪ አሲስታንስ ሚሊታሪ ቤኔፊትስ ኤንድ ሚሊታሪ ሪስኮቻቸውን በጋራ ለመፍታት ሲሉ ሀገራት ፎርማል አግሪመንት በመፍጠር ትብብር ወይንም አሊያንስን ሲፈጥሩ ይታያሉ። ይሄ አንደኛው ፎርም ኦፍ ፎሬን ፖሊሲ ዳይሜንሽን ነው አንደር አላይመንት። allied countries can pool their military resources, acquire access to foreign assets. ሀገራት አሊያንስ ከፈጠሩ በኋላ ሪሶርሳቸውን ሚሊታሪ ሪሶርሳቸውን አክሰሳቸውን ሼር ይደራል። ኢቨን ቲዮሪን እንኳን ሼር የሚደራርጉበት አግባብ አለ ኢነሚን ለመከላከል ወይንም ዲፌንድ ለማድረግ ሲባል yet an alliance state also risk interference by alliance. እንደ ማንኛውም ነገር አድቫንቴጅ እንዳለው ነው እዚህ ጋር እንደ ድሮባክ የተቀመጠው አሊያንስ ስቴቶች ኦልዌይስ ሪስክ አለ። what kinds of risk ነው? ኢንተርፌረንስ ሪስክ ሊገጥማቸው ይችላል። እርስ በርስ ዶሜስቲክ አፌርስ ላይ for mutual assistance or mutual benefits ብለው ሳይታወቅ አንዱ ላይ ኢንተርፌር ሊያደርግ ይችላል። ይሄ እንደ ድሮባክ የተቀመጠ ነው። ጉድ ኤግዛምፕላችን እነ ኔቶን ብንወስድ እነ ኔቶ ቃል ኪዳን ሀገሩ it is alliance for mutual benefits or mutual military assistance or benefits ነው። ስለዚህ ከተለያዩ ሀገራት ያሉ ሀገራት ለሚሊታሪ ሙቹዋል ቤኔፊታቸው ሲሉ አሲስታንስ እርስ በርስ ለመረዳዳት ሲሉ such kinds of alliance ሲፈጥሩ እናያለን ነው። ኒውትራሊቲ የምንለው ሁለተኛው ሲሆን it is a stance of formal non-participation in the world affairs. ሀገራት ራሳቸውን ከማንኛውም አላያንስ ኪፕ አድርገው ኢንተርናሽናል ሲስተም ውስጥ ኢንጌጅ ያደርጉ ነገር ግን የትኛውም እንትን ላይ ኢንጌጅ ሳያደርጉ ፓርቲሲፔት እያደረጉ ነገር ግን የትኛውም አላያንስ ላይ ራሳቸው ከአላያንስ ራሳቸውን ኒውትራል ሲያደርጉ that is neutrality እንለዋለን። those states keeping their profiles and neutrals may avoid some of why those states adopt neutrality ካልን አዶት የሚያደርጉበት ምክንያት just to avoid problems later with that of alliance ያመጣል ብለው ከሚያስቡት ችግር ራሳቸውን ለመጠበቅ ነው። ቅድም አሊያንስን ስናይ እንዳየነው አሊያንስ ላይ የኢንተርናሊ ኢንተርፌር የመደራረግ ዶሜስቲክ አፌርስ ላይ ኢንተርፌር የማደራረግ ስጋቶች አሉ። ሶ ኢን ኦርደር ቱ ፕሮቴክት themselves from such kinds of problem, plus they assume that alliance create a kinds of counter or potential enemies. So in order to avoid these potential enemies and counter alliances, those states may adopt neutrality as their foreign policy orientation or dimension. The third one is non-alignment. Non-alignment has been the foreign policy pattern of the most developing state during cold. So this non-alignment አሁን ላይ የለም። ነገር ግን more well known የነበረው during the era of Cold War, especially between and among those developing countries in order to protect themselves. So ራሳቸውን protect ለማድረግ ነው ራሳቸውን in order to make themselves strong and competent. Those developing countries during Cold Wars make a case for adopt non-alignment foreign policy orientations. The second big issues that helps to classify foreign policy orientation of a state is based on scope. So a second foreign policy orientation is the scope of a country activity and interest. So ምን ያህል ነው foreign policy ከቨር የሚያደርገው ሚለውን መሰረት አድርገን ስንከፍል that is foreign policy dimension based on scope እንላለን። So some countries have extensive far-reaching international contact while others are limited. So አንድ ሀገር በኢንተርናሽናል ኮንታክት or foreign policy ምን ያህል ነው ከቨር የሚያደርገው the scope that vast or that limited የሚለውን ነው። So አንዳንድ ሀገራት በጣም ብሮድ የሆነ ኢንተርናሽናል ኮንታክት አላቸው። አንዳንዶች ደግሞ ሊሚትድ within a specific region or a specific geographical limit ሊሆን ይችላል ነው። So in this regard we can identify three patterns of foreign policy. The first one is or some actors act in global terms, that is adopted by major powers. So major powers may adopt their foreign policy orientation that is applicable for at international level because their foreign policy is more or less adopted or touched almost all globes. For instance, major powers ከምንላቸው ውስጥ አንደኛው ዩናይትድ ስቴትስ ኦፍ አሜሪካ ፎሬን ፖሊሲ የማይነካው ሀገር የለም። starting from developed countries up to developing countries. So such kinds of foreign policy like United States of America can be considered as a global term. የነሱ ፎሬን ፖሊሲ ከቨር የሚያደርገው ፎሬን ፖሊሲያቸው ምን ያህል ቫስት እንደሆነ የሚያሳየን ነው ማለት ነው። This is all about what a global term. The next one is policy. The other one is regional terms. Other actors may adopt their foreign policy behavior or dimension as regional terms based on scope. Especially most countries in the world are essentially regional actors. አብዛኛው without those major powers ከምንላቸው ውጪ አብዛኞቹ የዓለም ሀገራት አዶፕት የሚያደርጉት based on their ስኮፑ ሪጂናልስ የምንለው term ነው። interacting primarily with neighboring states in the same geographic area. So except for contacts and with out of that region. So here regional terms ምንለው which is their interaction through their foreign policy is limited within a specific region, within a specific geographical area. So limited የሆነ geographical area and limit for limited regional area ከሆነ such kinds of foreign policy dimensions can be considered as a foreign policy orientation based on scope as regional term እንለዋለን። The third one is some also based on their scope they follow policy of isolationism. Why state adopt isolationism? This is totally isolate themselves from the international system or the international affairs. So through their foreign policy they adopt isolationism to isolate themselves from the remaining worlds. So what is the reason ካለን ምንድነው ምክንያቱ isolationism ለመከተል ካለን the key weakness or geographic remoteness. If a given state is a weak state and if a given state is there is a key weakness and there is issues related with that of geographical remoteness. If there is geographical remoteness or if there is any weakness, the state may adopt isolationism, but in the contemporary international system, it is difficult to adopt isolationism. So these all are the three major international foreign policy orientations or dimensions based on scope. The third is based on mode of operation. So one can classify foreign policy orientations based on a mode of operations. Some countries often rely on multilateral institutions to address different issues. In this regard, we have three kinds of foreign policy dimensions: multilateral, bilateral, and unilateral. So some states adopt, or some countries adopt, a multilateral. They consider themselves as a multilateral in terms of their foreign policy orientations. The more multilateral states, the greater its tendency to seek solution to problems through diplomatic forum in which several states participate. So, if a given state adopt a multilateral foreign policy orientations, that states have a greater tendency to seek solutions to problems through diplomatic forums. By engaging with different states. For instance, we can consider a member state of that United Nations. In United Nations, there is a kind of a multilateralist, the United Nations is a multilateral institution. So the member state of United Nations seeks solutions to their problems through diplomatic forums by participating together. The other thing is that if a given states adopt a bilateral form of foreign policy orientations, the states solve their problems through country-to-country approach. There is a kind of dialogue or discussion or forums between two states. That is a bilateral countries-to-country approach. Most developing countries used a multilateral approach to address many issues of concern. በራሳቸው ብቁ ስላልሆኑ especially those most developing countries ሞር የሚያደሉት መልቲላተራል አፕሮች ነው። ችግሮችን በጋራ መፍታት ወደሚለው ነው። ባይላተራል ስንል ቅድም እንዳልኳችሁ ካንትሪ ቱ ካንትሪ ፎረም ሲሆን that is a bilateral approach or bilateral behavior እንለዋለን። The multilateral forum would be enhanced collective bargaining power of these countries other developing with other countries. So ይሄ multilateral forum collective bargaining እንዲኖር ወይንም በየጋራ ችግሮችን በጋራ የመፍታት እሳቤዎችን ዴቨሎፕ ያደርጋል፣ እድሎችንም ይፈጥራል ነው። ስለዚህ አብዛኛው ሀገራት multilateral forum ላይ ፎከስ ያደርጋሉ። A unilateral ምንለው ሶስተኛው ምንድነው? It is a means of settling different issues with other countries that have strong economic and military muscles. They would prefer this approach to settle problems. So unilateral means ምንለው አንድ ሀገር ችግሮች settle different issues with other countries. That is a unilateral form of settling differences. So states may used or you may adopt multilateral, unilateral or bilateral based on the mode of adoption or based on the mode of operation. In this regard, the more unilateral states is, the more likely to initiate action at international relation or resist initiative taken by others. So እነዚህ unilateral means unilateral የሆኑ ስቴቶች more initiated ናቸው or more influential የሆኑ ሀገራት unilateral form of a foreign policy ይከተላሉ። This is what the main concept of unilateral, bilateral and multilateral dimension of foreign policy. this is እስካሁን እንግዲህ ባየን ያየነው ይሄን ይመስላል። ፎሪን ፖሊሲ ቢሄቪየር ምንድነው? ፎሪን ፖሊሲ ዳይሜንሽን ምንድነው? ምን አይነት ዳይሜንሽኖች አሉ? ሀገራት ዳይሜንሽኖች ቢከተሉት ምንን መሰረት አድርገው ነው የሚለውን አይተናል። በቀጣይ ቪዲዮ ኢንስትሩመንት ኦፍ ፎሪን ፖሊሲ የምናይ ይሆናል። see you